Hello, this is Dr. Glasbrenner from George Mason University, and in this video, we will learn about the statistical functions in R that we can use to quantify and analyze our data. In the previous lecture, we learned the tools we can use to quantify the center and spread of data distributions as part of our analysis of a dataset. Now we are going to learn the specific functions within R and the tidyverse that allow us to use these tools. To help demonstrate these tools, we will use example data posted by the U.S. Census Bureau containing the average work travel times across 3,143 counties in the United States between the years 2006 and 2010. Our main task will be to use statistical measures to quantify the shape of this distribution. If you would like to follow along with the examples shown in this lecture, you can load the dataset directly from the internet by placing the following setup code block at the top of a new R Markdown file. This will load the tidyverse package and then subsequently load the county complete dataset from data.cds101.com. R contains a number of helpful built-in functions that are useful for computing basic statistical measures of any numerical data column in a given dataset. Those functions include mean, which computes the average, median, which computes the median, min, which finds the minimum value, max, which finds the maximum value, SD, which computes the standard deviation, IQR, which computes the interquartile range, and %_rank, which is used to compute percentiles. How can we integrate these functions with our tidyverse tools that we've been learning about? It's quite simple to do this, actually. First, every function that was listed on the previous slide, except for %_rank, will always return a single quantity. That means that we can use them within the summarize function to compute the measures. For our example dataset, you would pipe the county dataset directly into summarize. Note that we do not need to use group_by here because we are not grouping over a categorical variable. Each line inside summarize is a single calculation of a different statistical measure. Remember that the word to the left of the equal sign is what we are naming the calculation in the summary table we get as output. The calculation goes on the right side of the equal sign. The variable containing the average travel times for each county in the United States is named mean_work_travel. So we take the mean of this variable to compute the overall average. For median, we take the median of the same variable. We do the same for the minimum, the maximum, the standard deviation, and the interquartile range. When you run this code block, you will get a table as output. For this dataset, we find that the average travel time to work across all counties is 22.7 minutes, while the median is 22.4 minutes, which are close as is expected for a symmetric dataset. The minimum average work travel time is 4.3 minutes, while the maximum is 44.2 minutes. The standard deviation is 5.5 minutes, while the interquartile range is 7.1. If you want to compute the quartiles of a data distribution, and not just the median and the interquartile range, then we need to use the %_rank function. The %_rank function operates on a full column of values, so it needs to be paired with mutate instead of with summarize. After using %_rank, we will know the percentiles for all of the data points in the data distribution. By having those, we can find the cutoff value for any given percentile in the data distribution, which includes the quartiles. This code block can be thought of as representing a recipe. Let's break down what's happening. We are piping the county dataset into mutate. The mutate function is being used to create a new column called percentile. Using %_rank, we find the percentile for every data point in the mean_work_travel column. That is a single computation. Next, we create a second new column named quartile. The quartile column will label the data in the mean_work_travel column as belonging to Q1, Q2, Q3, or Q4, representing the first, second, third, and fourth quartiles. This labeling is handled using the case_when function from dplyr, which is similar to if_else. The main difference is that case_when lets you define multiple rules instead of just one. The case_when function here is doing the following. It checks the percentile column for any values less than 0.25. These values will be labeled Q1 for the first quartile. Then, it checks for values between 0.25 and 0.5. These values will be labeled Q2 for second quartile. Then, it checks for values between 0.5 and 0.75. These values will be labeled Q3 for third quartile. Finally, it checks for values greater than or equal to 0.75, which will be labeled Q4 for fourth quartile. This completes the use of mutate. The result, which is the county dataset with two new columns, percentile and quartile, is then piped into group_by. We group over the quartile column. There are 4 categories under quartile: Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, so there will be 4 groups. Within those 4 groups, we find the maximum value of the original mean_work_travel column. This will define the upper threshold, or cutoff, for the group, which is the value that defines the quartile. When we run this full code block, we end up with the 4 quartiles for the average work travel times. The first quartile is 19 minutes, the second quartile is 22.4 minutes, the same as the median, the third quartile is 26.1 minutes, and the fourth quartile is 44.2 minutes, the same as the maximum. While this is a more complicated block of code than we have seen in previous lectures, it can be reused with minimal change. To use it on a different column, perhaps in a different dataset, you would only need to modify the following highlighted lines. The first line that reads county only needs to be changed if you are using a different dataset. In the third and last lines that are also highlighted, the only word that you need to change is mean_work_travel. You would replace mean_work_travel with the column name you wish to find the quartiles for. Let's visualize the meaning of the mean and the standard deviation on the data distribution for the average work travel times. The solid black line shows where the mean value of the distribution is located, which is one way to represent the data distribution center. The red band extending left and right from the black line represents one standard deviation to the left and the right of the mean. Recall that the standard deviation is a quantity that characterizes the spread of a data distribution. Now, let's see what happens to the visualization if we replace the mean and standard deviation with the median and the interquartile range. The change you just saw shows what happens to the measure of the center and the spread if we replace the mean and standard deviation with the median and the interquartile range. The center only shifts slightly as the distribution is symmetric. However, the measure for the spread has decreased. The data contained within the red band is the middle 50% of the data distribution. The data position to the left of the red band is the first 25% of the data distribution. The data position to the right of the red band is the top 25% of the data distribution. In this particular distribution, the middle 50% is concentrated close to the median, while the upper and lower 25% are more spread out. Instead of using these histograms with the red band, we can also represent the median and the interquartile range using a box plot. The following code block shows how to create a box plot using ggplot2. We start in the conventional way by writing ggplot and putting the dataset county as input. We then add the geom underscore we want to use, which in this case is geom_boxplot. We then write the mapping input, which takes the AES function as we've seen many times. For a box plot, the AES function requires 2 inputs, one for the x-axis and one for the y-axis. The x input should be a categorical variable, and the y input should be a numerical variable. So that means that, if we want to look at the mean_work_travel column, we should put that for the y input. What to do for x if we only want to look at a single box plot? If you only want to look at a single box plot, you can just set it equal to 2 double quotation marks as highlighted here. Running this code gives the figure on the right. We see the median as the line in the middle of the box. The bottom and top of the box correspond to the first and third quartiles. We have the whiskers that extend 1.5 times the interquartile range above and below the box's ends. The dots above and below the whiskers are the suspected outliers. As we can see, this distribution has quite a few suspected outliers.